I'm Sarah Sweeney.
And I'm Wenzel Jones.
With NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending June 15th, 2019. Any discrimination against a member of society is discrimination against all. That was why Botswana's High Court said it was overturning laws criminalizing same-gender sex. The unanimous ruling was released on June 11th. The Southern African nation's penal code punished carnal knowledge of any person against the order of nature with up to 7 years in prison. The court found those sections unconstitutional. The judgment was announced by Judge Michael Laburu. He said that a democratic nation is one that embraces tolerance, diversity, and open-mindedness. What compelling public interest is there necessitating such a law? Human dignity is harmed when minority groups are marginalized. Laburu also chided opponents, saying, "Sexual orientation is not a fashion statement. It's an important attribute of one's personality. All people are entitled to autonomy over their sexual expression." A young gay man known only as I Am filed the legal challenge. Attorney Gosego Letgoe argued that the penal code provisions limited I Am's ability to interact with other gay people for fear of imprisonment. Botswanans from across the country filled social media with their celebrations. Anna Emolai Chalmers of Lesbians, Gays, and Bisexuals of Botswana called the ruling incredibly life-changing and a step towards restoring our dignity as human beings. More than half of some 70 countries on the planet that still outlaw consensual adult queer sex were once British colonies, according to The Advocate. Botswana was one of them. Neighboring Angola decriminalized gay sex earlier this year. In Kenya, however, the High Court upheld statutes outlawing consensual adult same-gender sex last month.
Ecuador's constitutional court has declared that denying civil marriage to same-gender couples is unconstitutional. The judge's 5-4 vote on June 12th also confirmed that the Inter-American Court of Human Rights' November 2017 ruling applies to Ecuador. That decision required all countries in the region to open civil marriage to same-gender couples. The court ordered the country's National Assembly to make the necessary changes to applicable laws. Efrain Surya is a member of one of the two plaintiff couples. Surya told Al Jazeera that the ruling is a joy for our entire community and for Ecuador, and implored other queer couples to enjoy the happiness that comes from being equal like anyone else. In 1998, the small South American country became one of the first on earth to include LGBTQ anti-discrimination provisions in its constitution. Queer couples have been able to enter into less-than-marriage civil unions in Ecuador since 2015. It's not clear at this point just when gay and lesbian couples will be able to actually walk down the aisle, but the flower-petal pathway has been cleared. Ecuador will join other South American countries, including Argentina, Brazil, and Colombia, that have opened civil marriage to same-gender couples.
Iran's foreign minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, is defending his country's executions of gay people. Zarif's explanation came during a joint press conference with Germany's visiting foreign minister in Tehran on June 10th. Paul Ronsheimer is a gay journalist from the German tabloid Bild. He later told the Washington Post that his American boyfriend in Berlin had helped him formulate the question before the news conference. Ronsheimer asked Zarif, why are homosexuals executed in Iran because of their sexual orientation? Zarif first criticized human rights violations in the U.S. and Israel before responding, "Our society has moral principles concerning the behavior of people in general, and that means that the law is respected and the law is obeyed." Shadi Amayin is an Iranian writer now living in Germany. She told Deutsche Welle Farsi that she was outraged by Zarif's comments. Amayin said, "Humiliation, repression, and sexual harassment of a particular social group should be viewed critically and prohibited by law." Under Islamic law in Iran, expressions of same-gender affection can be punished by floggings for minor violations such as kissing in public. Flagrant violations can bring up to the death penalty.
German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas came under local fire for not addressing the issue at the press conference. A ministry spokesman later told Bild that no religious, cultural, or ethnic tradition justifies state persecution, especially the execution of homosexuals. In Iran and 7 other countries worldwide, homosexuals face the death penalty. That is inhuman and completely unacceptable. Openly gay U.S. Ambassador to Germany, Richard Grenell, also strongly criticized the Iranian foreign minister's statements. Grinnell told the country's press agency, DPA, that Iran should honor the world body's Universal Declaration of Human Rights if they want to be UN members at all. The criminalization of homosexuality plainly violates this declaration. While it's not possible to know the exact number, human rights groups believe that several thousand people have been executed for homosexuality in Iran since the 1979 Islamic Revolution.
The Vatican issued a statement this week about how Roman Catholic school students should be educated. It rejected the concept of gender fluidity and, by extension, the existence of transgender people. The document is called Male and Female, He Created Them, Towards a Path of Dialogue on the Question of Gender Theory in Education. It condemns calls for public recognition of the right to choose one's gender, and also rejects marriage equality as in direct contradiction of the model of marriage as being between one man and one woman. The document establishes nothing especially new in church doctrine regarding LGBTQ people. It does recommend that Roman Catholics should have a dialogue about gender identity with those who believe in non-binary possibilities and should not discriminate against people who identify as transgender or gender fluid. Inclusivity advocate Reverend James Martin was among several individuals and queer-supportive Catholic groups to express disappointment in the latest pronouncements. The Jesuit priest told the New York Times that anyone who thinks that being transgender is a response to ideology has not spoken to many transgender people. Martin went on to say, people do not choose their gender, as the Vatican claims. They discover it through their lived experiences. The Church should respect and encourage this process of discovery, because it is a process by which individuals discover the wonderful way that God has created them.
The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has ordered a lower court to reconsider her ruling that Donald Trump's ban on transgender military service is unconstitutional. The appeals court set aside Seattle, Washington U.S. District Judge Marsha Peckman's ruling that the ban likely violates the constitutional rights of current and would-be transgender service members. A three-judge panel of the Ninth Circuit did not rule on the case's merits. They determined that Peckman had not given enough deference to the military's revised assessment of the situation because the 2018 policy appears to have been the product of independent military judgment. The 2017 policy that military service should be open to qualified transgender enlistees was the result of a thorough Pentagon study concluded under President Barack Obama. However, Mark Joseph Stern points out in a June 14th analysis piece on Slate.com that the Ninth Circuit panel also concluded that banning trans people from military service is discriminatory and constitutes sex-based bias. The decision said the proponents of the ban must have exceedingly persuasive justification, one not hypothesized or invented post hoc in response to litigation. Thus, Peckman is almost certain to conclude that the ban remains unconstitutional. Peckman was one of 4 federal judges to declare the ban on transgender people's military service to be unconstitutional. In January, the U.S. Supreme Court lifted the last of the lower court injunctions preventing the policy from taking effect. Even though the ruling allowed challenges to the policy to continue in lower courts, transgender people have been denied enlistment since the ban took effect. And talented, honorably serving trans troops are, for the most part, being slowly squeezed out of the U.S. military.
And finally, we told you here last week about the Trump administration forbidding all U.S. embassies and other foreign outposts from flying the rainbow flag to observe the traditional LGBTQ Pride Month in June. Flying the rainbow flag during Pride Month had become routine during the 8 years of the Obama administration, so this appears to be an especially petty Trump reversal of another Obama-era policy. Vice President Mike Pence struggled to defend the rainbow flag ban during an interview this week on NBC.
Look, as the president said on the night we were elected, we're proud to be able to serve every American, and we both feel that way very passionately. But when it comes to the American flagpole at American embassies and capitals around the world, having the one American flag fly, I think, is the right decision.
Some U.S. diplomats are finding ways to get around the policy, or even directly defy it. The facades of the U.S. missions in Seoul, South Korea, and Chennai, India, are partially hidden behind large rainbow flags. Photos and videos released by the embassy in Kathmandu, Nepal, appear to show the rainbow flag prominently displayed on the outside of the building. The U.S. embassies in Santiago, Chile, and New Delhi, India, are being bathed in rainbow-colored lights. Several ambassadors have tweeted photos of themselves in local pride parades or standing outside embassies surrounded by employees holding up large balloon letters spelling out PRIDE. One unidentified diplomat slyly told the Washington Post that this is a Category 1 insurrection.
That's NewsWrap, global queer news with attitude for the week ending June 15th, 2019. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap is written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazer, recorded at the studios of KPFK Los Angeles, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at thiswayout.org. You can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out radio YouTube channel. For This Way Out, I'm Sarah Sweeney.
And I'm Wenzel Jones.